Hello students, I welcome you all to the second unit of Indian economic development, which is economic reform since 1991. Alright, so let's begin. Now before we start, let's revise what we have done till now using a timeline. Alright, so suppose this is our timeline, and our planning commission was set up in the year 1950. All right, and the planning commission is responsible for formulating all these 5-year plans. All right, so our first 5-year plan started from the period 1951 to 56, where our major focus was on agriculture. Then our second 5-year plan started from the period 1956 to 61, where major emphasis was on industrialization, and here PC Mahalanobis played a major role. All right, then our third 5-year plan started from the year 1961 to 66, and here the major focus was on self-reliant economy. Then from the period 1966 to 69, there was an plan holiday, wherein in this period there was no formulation of a plan. Why? Because of two reasons. Number one, there was Indo-Pakistan war going on, and number two was because of the failure of the third plan. All right, so in during the period 1966 to 69, there was a plan holiday. Then again we started. Then from the period 1969 to 74, we had our fourth 5-year plan, where our major focus was on growth with stability, and there was a very popular slogan which was initiated by Indira Gandhi, which was Garibi Hatao. Alright, now the fifth 5-year plan was from the period 1974 to 1979, and here again the top priority was given to agriculture. Now the sixth 5-year plan was from the period 1980 to 1985, and in between this fifth and sixth period, 5-year plan, there was a rolling plan. All right, now the sixth 5-year plan basically talked about poverty eradication, and it also emphasized on more on infrastructure development and investment, so as to promote more and more growth. Then our seventh 5-year plan came into picture, and the period was from 1985 to 1990. And during this seventh 5-year plan, it was the first time when private sector was given more importance than the public sector, because we all know that prior to this seventh 5-year plan, our major focus was on public sector rather than the private sector. But it was during the seventh 5-year plan when we started giving more emphasis on the private sector. All right, now after that there was a volatile political situation at the center, so two annual programs were formed in the period 1990 to 91 and 1991 to 92. All right, so there was a break. Then again we started with our eighth 5-year plan, which was from the period 1992 to 97, where our major emphasis was on development of human resources, for example employment, education, public health. All right, then our ninth 5-year plan was formulated, which was from the period 1997 to 2002, and here the major focus was on growth with equity. Now this ninth 5-year plan was launched in 50th year of independence of India, as in 50 साल हो चुके थे भारत को independent हुए हुए. Then the 10th 5-year plan started from the period 2002 to 2007, where our major focus was to reduce poverty and to double up per capita income in the next 10 years. Then the 11th 5-year plan started from the period 2007 to 2012, where we focused more on faster and more inclusive growth. Then our last 12th 5-year plan was from the period 2012 to 2017, and whose major focus was on faster, more inclusive and sustainable growth. And after that, Niti Planning Commission was abolished, and then Niti Aayog, which is Niti Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India, that is now there instead of the Planning Commission, and now the Planning Commission has been abolished. Alright, so this is the whole history, and now we will be talking about this period, which was from 1990 to 92. Alright, we'll be focusing on this period. Okay, so let's begin. Now we all know that during our 5-year plans, the major focus was given on the public sector, all right, and public sector was given the leading role for the process of growth and development, whereas the private sector was to play a very subordinate role. And there were many restrictions. Industry and trade were subjected to many restrictions, all right, and the basic idea was not to allow the growth of private monopolies, but at the same time to protect the domestic industry from international competition. Now, it is not denying the fact that the policy of licenses, quotas, they actually gave us good results initially, but at the end, the result was disappointing. So, since we've given a lot of emphasis to public sector, a lot of corruption was going on, a lot of inefficiency was there, and also since we were not giving more opportunity to private sector, so there was absence of competition, all right, so we were not modernizing. So at the end, so we were in a crisis, all right, and at the end we decided to introduce economic reforms. So basically economic reforms refers to a set of economic policies directed to achieve improvement in economic efficiency, all right. So now, why this new economic policy of 1991? There are various reasons that why we adopted this economic policy of 1991. Though this is not in our syllabus, but we should have an idea, all right. This is not in your syllabus, but then you should know that what were the reasons that India adopted new economic policy of 1991. The first reason is high fiscal deficit. So fiscal deficit basically means when our government expenditure exceeds our government receipts, और जब गवर्नमेंट हमारी इकोनॉमी पे एक्सपेंडिचर ज़्यादा करती है और उस हिसाब से उसको रिसिप्ट्स नहीं मिलते. रिसिप्ट्स उसको कैसे मिलते हैं? फ्रॉम टैक्सेशन, ऑलराइट. सो एट दैट टाइम रेवेन्यू फ्रॉम टैक्सेशन वाज आल्सो लो एंड गवर्नमेंट वाज स्पेंडिंग मोर एंड मोर ऑन non-development expenditure. Non-development expenditure for example on subsidies and defense, ये कुछ ऐसे areas हैं जो ज़्यादा returns नहीं देते वापस government को, alright, in terms of production and productivity. So as a result what happened that since the government expenditure were exceeding government receipts, तो उसको finance करने के लिए they used to borrow, they used to raise loans, from banks, public and international financial institutions. अब क्योंकि लोन ले रहे हैं तो इंटरेस्ट भी देना पड़ेगा. So government की liability बढ़ती रही in order to make interest payments, and as a result Indian economy was in a debt trap. Alright. Now the second point is adverse BOP. BOP is balance of payment. So balance of payment is basically a difference between inflow of foreign exchange and outflow of foreign exchange. Inflow of foreign exchange कैसे होता है? जब मैं export करती हूँ, whenever I am exporting some commodities, then I will get a foreign exchange in return. Alright. So an outflow of foreign exchange means whenever I am importing something, अगर मैं किसी और country से सामान खरीद रही हूँ तो obviously मुझे उसको payment करनी पड़ेगी foreign exchange में. Alright, so BOP basically difference होता है inflow of foreign exchange and outflow of foreign exchange. Adverse BOP कब होता है? When outflow of foreign exchange is more than the inflow of foreign exchange. अब ऐसा हुआ था कि हमारा before 1991 our exports were very less. Why exports were very less? Because our goods were not that much competitive in the international market. We had poor quality, number one. Number two, our prices were not that competitive. Alright, and that was only because we were we restricted our economy too much. So that was the reason of adverse BOP. The next point is fall in foreign exchange reserves. So what is foreign exchange reserves? Foreign exchange reserves are basically reserves of foreign assets like foreign currencies, foreign securities. Alright, so nothing was done in order to boost the exports, so that अगर exports बढ़ते हमको foreign exchange मिलता तो हम उससे और imports we could have bought more and more of goods from abroad, but then our foreign exchange was not enough and foreign exchange reserves declined to a level that it was not adequate to finance imports for more than 2 weeks. Alright, then there was an inflation. So economic crisis was further compounded by rising prices of essential goods and services. बहुत ज़्यादा inflation हो गया था. There was poor performance of PSUs, public sector undertakings. We've discussed in previous videos that we cannot shut down PSU immediately, even if it is incurring losses. We've discussed that. Why? Because because PSUs work for social welfare, and you cannot shut down PSU. And then public sector continued to operate even in those areas which could be comfortably shifted to private sector. अब जैसे मैंने बोला, ऐसी कुछ चीज़ें थी जिसमें पब्लिक सेक्टर का जो ओनरशिप है वो प्राइवेट सेक्टर को दे देना चाहिए था, बट वो पब्लिक सेक्टर के उसने अपने हाथ में ही रखा. ऑलराइट. And also inefficient management. So government expenditure was constantly greater than its revenue. We've discussed it. Then too much of rules and regulations were there, which hampered the process of growth and development. Then there was lack of finances also. There was inefficient administration, which led to the need for economic reforms. So at the end, India approached the World Bank, and the other name for World Bank is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. This comes in your 1-marker question. Then what is the other name of World Bank? It is IBRD, which is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. So because of this, all these problems, we approached to World Bank and IMF, which is International Monetary Fund, and then we received $7 billion as a loan to manage this crisis. And for availing this loan, the international organization said that okay, we are giving you this loan, but you really need to liberalize your economy. You need to open up your economy by removing all the restrictions you've put on, and also you have to reduce the role of public sector, and you have to motivate more and more of private sector to come into picture. So basically they wanted more competitive economy. All right. So the new economic policy had basically 3 components: liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So we will be only focusing on liberalization in this video, and then we'll take up the subsequent sectors in the other videos. All right. So let's start with the liberalization. So let us first understand the meaning of the liberalization, which is freeing the economy from direct controls imposed by the government. अब government ने इतना ज़्यादा कंट्रोल कर लिया था, वी रियली नीड टू लिबरलाइज आवर इकोनॉमी. वो गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल से हमको पीछा छुटाना था. ऑलराइट. सो व्हाई एक्चुअली कंट्रोल्स वर इम्पोज्ड बाय द गवर्नमेंट? Why they imposed control? Why? Number 1, because they wanted to prevent the growth of private monopolies. वो नहीं चाहते थे कि ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा प्राइवेट मोनोपोलीज आए. नहीं तो सारा का सारा जितना भी रिसोर्सेज है वो बिग इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट के पास चला जाएगा. वी नेवर वांटेड दैट, एंड वी नो दैट प्राइवेट सेक्टर का मेजर मोटिव इज़ प्रॉफिट मैक्सिमाइजेशन रादर दैन सोशल वेलफेयर. सो इसीलिए सारा का सारा भार गवर्नमेंट ने, पब्लिक सेक्टर ने अपने हाथ में उठा लिया था. ना देयर वर सर्टेन रिफॉर्म्स अंडर लिबरलाइजेशन. विल बी taking each sector one by one, and this topic is very important. We'll be talking about industrial sector reforms, we'll be talking about financial sector reforms. All this comes under liberalization. We'll talk about fiscal or tax reforms, we'll talk about foreign exchange reforms, and then we'll talk about trade and investment policy reforms. These are some acronyms which I will discuss one by one. Alright, so let's proceed. Now the first one is the industrial sector reforms. The first point is reducing the role of the public sector. Now we all know that prior to 1991, major role was given to the public sector. Now they've changed it. They said that private sector would, they will be allowed to participate in growth objective of the country. And earlier there were around 17 industries which were under public sector, but now it was reduced to only 3 important industries, which was defense, atomic energy, and railway transportation. तो उन्होंने बोला जितनी भी important sectors हैं उनको पब्लिक सेक्टर में ले आते हैं, और बाकी बची भी जितनी भी चीज़ें हैं वो प्राइवेट सेक्टर के हाथ में दे दो. नहीं तो पहले सारा का सारा पब्लिक सेक्टर ने संभाल के रखा हुआ था. सो दे सेड दैट प्लीज रिड्यूस द रोल ऑफ पब्लिक सेक्टर एंड गिव मोर इम्पोर्टेंस टू द प्राइवेट सेक्टर. दिस इज आवर फर्स्ट पॉइंट. Second point is freedom to import capital goods. पहले restrictions होती थी, we couldn't import important capital goods from other countries, but now they said that there is a freedom to import capital goods and technology in order to develop a strong infrastructural base of the country. हमको एक strong infrastructure base develop करना है, which is why you're allowed to import important capital goods. The third one is price determination by market forces. So earlier government used to set all the prices, but now we left it to market in order to determine the price. The next one is abolition of industrial licensing. We all know that private entrepreneurs had to take a license before setting up a industrial unit, but now they said that okay, according to new economic policy, you don't need an industrial license. Alright, you can establish an industrial unit without taking permission or without taking license from the government. But कुछ industries ऐसी थी which are of strategic importance for a nation, जिसके लिए उन्होंने बोला लाइसेंस की ज़रूरत है. वो ऐसी कुछ इंडस्ट्रीज थी जिसके लिए आपको लाइसेंस की ज़रूरत थी, बट बाकियों के लिए अब लाइसेंसिंग सिस्टम हटा दिया था, लाइसेंस राज हटा दिया था, पूरी इकोनॉमी को लिबरलाइज कर दिया, पूरी इकोनॉमी को ओपन अप कर दिया. The last point is de-reservation of production of small-scale industries. Prior to 1991, there was some goods which could be produced only by the small-scale industries. But अब वो सारा जो reserve करके रखा हुआ था वो सब हटा दिया. But now many goods which were produced by small-scale industries have been de-reserved. All right. So in order to memorize these points, I formed one acronym which is PCMLS. You remember this as PC Mahalanobis. We know that PC Mahalanobis is also known as Architect of Indian Planning, और PC Mahalanobis ने इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर पे बहुत ज़्यादा काम किया है. उसका मेजर फोकस ही इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर था, एंड वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टर ओनली. सो PC Mahalanobis, MLS. So P here stands for public sector, that is we reduce the role of public sector, private sector को ज़्यादा बोला. C stands for capital goods. We were now free to import capital goods from other countries. M for market forces, that earlier government used to set the price, but now market forces were allowed. Then licensing को ख़त्म कर दिया, and then de-reservation of production or by small scale industries. So this is how you can memorize it. For industrial sector reforms, it is PC Mahalanobis. P stands for public sector का role कम कर दिया. C for capital goods, M for market forces, L for licensing, and S for small scale industries. All right, now let's come to our second set of reforms, which is financial sector reforms. All right, so the first one is the role of RBI. Now let us see what financial sector actually includes first of all. Right, so financial sector includes all the financial institutions such as commercial banks, investment banks, stock exchange markets, foreign exchange market, and this sector is basically controlled by Reserve Bank of India. Now prior to 1991, RBI played a role of a regulator. रेगुलेटर का मतलब ये हुआ कि आरबीआई ही पूरा का पूरा रेगुलेट करेगा, आरबीआई ही एक्सचेंज रेट फिक्स करेगा, एंड कमर्शियल बैंक्स आर सपोज टू follow the interest rate which is fixed by the RBI. So RBI used to fix the interest rate, and all the commercial banks were supposed to follow it. And also commercial banks were supposed to consult RBI on almost all financial matters. All right, but with this new economic policy, they said that okay, we'll reduce the role of RBI from regulator to facilitator of financial sector. So facilitator means that now the financial sector may be allowed to take decisions on many financial matters without consulting RBI. अब RBI की consultation की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Commercial banks can take up their own decisions. Alright, now they don't have to consult RBI. So this was the first point. The second point is foreign investment. So earlier foreign investment was restricted, but now more and more of foreign investments were allowed. For example, FII, foreign institutional investments. The third one is establishment of private sector banks. Earlier only public sector banks were promoted and private sector banks were not much encouraged, but now they said that okay, we'll establish more and more of private sector banks, and which this will actually help us to increase competition, and it will also provide better services to consumers. अगर खाली public sector banks होंगे तो उससे competition भी नहीं होगा और कुछ ही public sector banks होंगे, but अगर बहुत सारे private sector banks होंगे तो कंपटीशन भी बढ़ेगा और बेटर सर्विसेज भी मिलेंगी कस्टमर्स को. द लास्ट पॉइंट इज सेटिंग अप ऑफ न्यू ब्रांचेस. So prior to 1991, approval of RBI was required in order to set up new branches of the banks. But now, those banks which fulfilled certain conditions, they were given freedom to set up their own branches without the approval of RBI. तो पहले परमिशन लेनी पड़ती थी नई ब्रांच खोलने के लिए, बट अब RBI से इतना परमिशन नहीं लेना पड़ता. राइट, सो दीज आर द पॉइंट्स. एंड इसको मेमोराइज करने के लिए रेस्ट इन पीस बैंक्स. Since we are talking about financial sector, so banks, rest in peace banks, where R stands for RBI. We reduce the role of RBI from a regulator to a facilitator. I stands for investments, meaning that earlier investments were restricted, but now we said okay, allow more and more of foreign investments. P stands for encourage more and more of private sector banks, and B stands for you don't really need to take permission from RBI in order to start up new branches. You can start your branch without consulting RBI. Alright, so let's go to our next set of reforms, which is fiscal or tax reforms. Alright, so tax reforms are basically concerned with the reforms in government revenue and government expenditure policies. Alright, so when we are dealing with expenditure and revenue policies of the government, we are talking about fiscal reforms. So the first one is reduction in direct taxes. So we really need to first understand the difference between direct tax and an indirect tax. So direct tax are those taxes the burden of which cannot be shifted onto others. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इनकम टैक्स, जिसके ऊपर टैक्स लगा उसी को पे करना पड़ेगा. सो द वन हु पेज सच अ टैक्स हिमसेल्फ बियर्स द बर्डन ऑफ इट. ठीक है, सपोज मुझ पे टैक्स लगा तो मुझे ही वो टैक्स पे करना है गवर्नमेंट को. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस क्या होते हैं? दे आर दोज टैक्सेस द बर्डन ऑफ विच कैन बी शिफ्टेड ऑन टू अदर्स. फॉर एग्जाम्पल सेल्स टैक्स हो गया, सर्विस टैक्स हो गया, इसमें बर्डन शिफ्ट कर सकते हैं. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल अ शॉपकीपर पेइंग सेल्स टैक्स टू द गवर्नमेंट can shift the burden of this tax onto the final buyers of the goods by adding the tax amount to the price of the goods sold. Alright, so this is the basic difference between direct and indirect tax. So prior to 1991, there was a tremendous increase in direct tax, and with economic reforms, it was felt that the high rates of income tax were responsible for tax evasion. तो 1991 से पहले income tax गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत बढ़ा दिया था. अब अगर इनकम टैक्स गवर्नमेंट बढ़ा देता है तो लोगों को लगता है तो बहुत ज़्यादा टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा, तो वो टैक्स इवेजन की तरफ चले जाते हैं. टैक्स इवेजन मीन्स व्हेन यू फाइंड वेज टू एस्केप पेइंग टैक्सेस. आप टैक्स पे नहीं करना चाहते, इसलिए आप कुछ अलग चीज़ें करनी शुरू कर देते हो ताकि आपको टैक्स पे ना करना पड़े. इसको बोलते हैं टैक्स इवेजन, मतलब टैक्स पे ना करना पड़े. So basically they said that okay, I think because of this, since हमने इतना ज़्यादा इनकम टैक्स इन लोगों को पे करने के लिए दे दिया, तो विच इज़ वाई दे आर इवेडिंग टैक्सेस. ये लोग टैक्स पे नहीं कर रहे, तो एक काम करते हैं, इनकम टैक्स को थोड़ा कम कर देंगे सो दैट दे आर ऑल्सो इनकरेज टू पे द टैक्स, और कोई लूप होल्स नहीं होंगे. So with new economic policy, they decided that a moderate rate of income tax will be there. Alright, so in order to encourage savings, alright, and that was the point. The second one is reform in indirect taxes. Now there were very complexities in imposing the indirect taxes and recovering them. बहुत ज़्यादा complex structure था और बहुत सारे indirect taxes थे. So which is why they said that so now efforts were made to reform the indirect taxes, and this was initiated to facilitate the establishment of a common national market, that is goods and services. तो बहुत सारे taxes होने की वजह से तो हम लोगों ने एक कर दिया goods and services tax, which is an umbrella term for all the indirect taxes. This I will explain in detail in coming videos, so you don't need to worry about this. The fourth one is simplification of tax paying procedure. Now prior to 1991, it was a very complex procedure to make a tax payment in terms of long distance, and there was a fixed time period. So in order to encourage better compliance on the part of the taxpayers, many procedures were simplified. Online tax paying शुरू हो गया था. Alright, so how can we memorize this? This is dig taxes. ठीक है, taxes को अब थोड़ा कम कर दो या dig कर दो. So here D stands for reduction in direct taxes, I stands for reform in indirect taxes, G is goods and services tax, which we'll discuss in the subsequent videos, and T means when you really need to simplify the tax paying procedures. All right. Now, the next one is the foreign exchange reforms. All right, the first one is determination of foreign exchange rate. So, earlier, determination of foreign exchange rate was determined by the government, but now the market forces were allowed to determine our foreign exchange rate. All right, the next point is devaluation of rupee. Now, in 1991, India was badly hit by BOP crisis. So, in that, because of this, the reform in this regard was devaluation of rupee. अब devaluation का मतलब क्या होता है? So, devaluation basically refers to reduction in the value of domestic currency in relation to foreign currency by the government. It actually encourages exports and it discourages imports. How? That I'll explain that. Suppose, for example, $1 is equal to rupees 50, all right, before devaluation. Now, after devaluation, $1 is equal to rupees 60. तो पहले $1 रुपीज़ 50 का आता था, अब डी वैल्यू कर दिया तो अब $1 रुपीज़ 60 का आ रहा है. अब सोचो कि फॉरेनर्स पहले हमसे $1 में 50 रुपीज़ वर्थ ऑफ गुड्स खरीदते थे, लेकिन अब फॉरेनर्स को उसी $1 से 60 रुपीज़ वर्थ ऑफ गुड्स मिल रहे हैं. मतलब उनको प्रॉफिट हो रहा है. पहले उनको $1 से 50 रुपये का मिलता था, अब उनको उसी $1 से 60 का मिल रहा है. तो इसलिए वो हमसे ज़्यादा प्रोडक्ट्स लेने की कोशिश करेंगे, तो विच इज़ वाई हमारे एक्सपोर्ट्स टू अमेरिका बढ़ जाएगा. ऑलराइट, इससे क्या होगा? अगर हमारे एक्सपोर्ट्स बढ़ेंगे तो हमारा इनफ्लो ऑफ फॉरेन एक्सचेंज भी बढ़ जाएगा. सो दैट वाज द रीज़न वी डिवैल्यूएड आवर फॉरेन करेंसी. ऑलराइट, सो लेट्स गो टू आवर. अच्छा, इसका एक्रोनिम इज FD. ऑलराइट, F stands for foreign exchange rate and D stands for devaluation of rupee. Now, the next one is trade and investment policy reforms. So let's begin with our first point, which is dismantling of quantitative restrictions on imports and exports. We all know that prior to 1991, there were a lot of restrictions on import and export. Our tariff rates was also high. Now, this actually reduced competitiveness and efficiency, and this led to the slow growth of our manufacturing sector. All right. So, liberalization basically aimed at removal of all these restrictions on imports and exports. The second one is reduction of tariff rates. At that time, tariffs were also very high, in order to favor the policy of protection. Taxes were very high. So now taxes on imports were reduced in order to enhance the domestic trade and achieve economic growth. The third one is removal of export duties. Earlier, there were heavy export duties imposed to encourage domestic production for domestic demand only. इसको समझते हैं. एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटीज़ मतलब कि अगर सपोजिटली मुझे कोई अपनी कमोडिटी बाहर एक्सपोर्ट करनी है तो मुझे उसके लिए गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा. गवर्नमेंट ने ऐसा टैक्स क्यों लगाया? क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट चाहती थी कि जितने भी हम प्रोडक्शन कर रहे हैं वो हम बाहर एक्सपोर्ट ना करें, वो रैदर हम डोमेस्टिक डिमांड को कवर करें. आई मीन मैं डोमेस्टिक डिमांड को सेटिस्फाई करूँ rather than exporting abroad. So which is why they imposed an export duty that okay, if you are exporting abroad you really need to pay this tax. तो इस वजह से लोगों ने हाई एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटीज़ कर दिया था ताकि मैं बाहर एक्सपोर्ट ना कर सकूं, बट अब वो रिमूव कर दिया गया सो एज टू एक्सपोर्ट मोर एंड मोर और ट्रेड और बढ़ाएं हम. ऑलराइट, अगर हम ट्रेड बढ़ाएंगे तो और कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस बढ़ेगी और will grow in the international markets. Now, the last point is removal of licensing procedures for import. So, prior to 1991, there were huge restrictions to obtain import license in order to keep strict control over imports, right? Now, import licensing was abolished except in few sensitive industries. All right, so even if I wanted to import something, I really needed to have a license from the government, but अब वो license भी ख़त्म कर दिया था. So in order to memorize it, I formed an acronym which is Right to Education in India, RTE in I, India. So R stands for restrictions, T for tariffs कि tariffs कम करो, restrictions हटा दिए, E stands for export duties हटा दी, और licensing procedures हटा दिए for imports. I hope you understood this part of liberalization. Now we'll continue with privatization and globalization in our next videos. Thank you so much.